What's up YouTube? This is Broke Man Finance, and if you are new to the channel and just stopping by, I'm one of your co-hosts, Adam, and I really hope you are open-minded enough to consider subscribing as we try to continue to grow this channel. If you are one of our subscribers, then thank you very much for sticking with us as we try to bring more and more content. If there's something that you would like for us to review, get an opinion on, whatever, by all means, please leave a comment in the comment section. We would love to hear from you. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. The number one thing I love about a company is innovation. The worst thing I hate about a company is stagnation. A lot of people do not like the next two stocks that we're going to talk about because they believe that these stocks are what they would consider sin stocks, because they believe the way these companies make their money is immoral and it goes against their values, which is something that I completely understand and, to be honest, can really respect. But there are moves getting made to try to make this world a tobacco-free world. And these two companies aren't fighting it. In fact, they're embracing it. The FDA just became a catalyst for these two companies to continue innovating. I'm talking about two world tobacco giants, and that is Philip Morris and Altria. But before we dive into what's going to save them and their share price, let's take a brief look at a little bit of history. Altria, formerly Philip Morris Companies, was the parent company for Philip Morris USA. They are most widely known for their Marlboro, whatever, cigarettes, Marlboro. In 2008, Altria and Philip Morris parted ways. Altria continued to sell the Marlboro products in the US while Philip Morris took on the international markets. Since then, the road has not been an easy one. Cigarette sales in the US have declined 3% every year since, which just has been hurting the overall revenue of Altria. Altria has made a couple acquisitions here in the past few years, but turned out to be poor choices of overvalued companies that have been regulatory nightmares. One of these acquisitions was a 35% stake in the e-cigarette JUUL, JUUL, who have been ravaged by regulations and vaping-related lung disease lawsuit. Altria also took a stab at the Cronos group, the cannabanoid manufacturer in Canada, who's had their own set of regulatory issues and lawsuits, and they have watched their share price just plummet. Needless to say, these were not the best acquisition decisions. So Altria changed their CEO just a few months ago in April. Altria named Billy Gifford as the new CEO. So we will see if old Billy can change to the trajectory of this company after all these poor decisions. On a side note, there were talks about reuniting again in a merger, but apparently that ship has sailed and those talks have since died out. Philip Morris, on the other hand, has been doing a bit better. Their share price has not dropped nearly as much as Altria has. Actually, for a while, tobacco consumption was on the rise in international markets, as opposed to in the US where it's been declining. And Philip Morris has been working on their own e-cigarette, the IQOS, which now leads us to the big announcement that was just made last week. So the big news was that the FDA gave Philip Morris the green light to go ahead and start marketing the IQOS as a safer alternative to smoking. This announcement is perfect timing because Philip Morris is trying to gear up to get out of the cigarette game. They are completely preparing for the end of cigarette sales. The FDA to approve to market this is a big deal. Philip Morris applied to be able to sell this product over 2 years ago. It's not a vaping product that uses a liquid, and it's not a burn tobacco product. Let me read you what this says about what the IQOS system is and why it is innovative. The IQOS tobacco heating system has three main parts: a handheld device, a charger, and a small tobacco-filled stick called heat sticks or heats that are heated by the device to a temperature high enough to vaporize the tobacco but too low to cause combustion. The tobacco is not burned as it is with cigarettes, and no smoke is created. Scientific studies have proved that IQOS is much safer than smoking, delivering fewer toxins than combusted tobacco. This thing isn't vaping and it isn't smoking cigarettes. It is its own brand new, completely new thing. That's why it's such a big deal. This could literally change the entire world in terms of smoking. The reason I like that strategy and that mindset so much is Philip Morris is changing with the world. They're not trying to get the world to change. Whether they like it or not, they recognize that The world as a whole is becoming more health conscious, especially in the United States. And just about anywhere you go now, you can no longer smoke in places where it was always acceptable. I already mentioned that the cigarettes are declining in the US 3% at least a year. Both of those being an indication that maybe the world is becoming more conscious of the health effects that comes from smoking. They've got to figure out a way to make money off people quitting smoking, because that's the trend. I would completely butcher his last name, so I'm not going to attempt to, but here's what Philip Morris's CEO had to say recently in his letter to shareholders. I am convinced that it is possible to completely end cigarette sales in many countries within 10 to 15 years. But for that to happen, manufacturers and governments need to work in the same direction. Now that's a man who sees the writing on the wall. He doesn't sound like the same CEOs of years past who would try to convince you that cigarette smoking was actually a healthy alternative and help with stress. And maybe it did help with stress, but you were also stressed out later on when you had a bunch of health complications. He seems like he's legitimately trying to do the right thing here. Let's take a look at these numbers. In 2019, Philip Morris sold almost 707 billion cigarettes. That is down 4.5% from 2018. Shipments of heated tobacco products, e-cigarettes, soared 44.2% to 59.7 billion units in 2019. And the CFRA, who is a fund and equity research firm, gave Philip Morris a 12-month price target of $95. Currently, Philip Morris is trading around $74, and that's a 4% increase since the announcement last week. Altria also saw a 4% uptick since the announcement. They're currently trading at approximately $40 with a 12-month price target of $55. Now, these two companies have remained in investor conversations mainly because both have very, very hefty dividend yields. Philip Morris has double-digit year dividend growth with a strong 6.4% yield. Altria has over 50 years of growth, but don't forget about the split, and they are boasting an 8.34% whopping dividend yield. Altria will also benefit from the ability to sell the IQOS e-cigarette system. Both of these giant tobacco companies have the same goal in the fact that they're trying and they want to make the world tobacco free as soon as they can. 2020, what a year. Now, with all that being said, the big question is this: is right now the best time to invest in these companies during this transition to see the most profit and gains over the next few years? Could the transition to e-cigs be the trajectory changer that they need to make these companies and these share prices get back to what they used to be? I think it's possible. On top of that, I think that marijuana, for however you feel about it, is eventually gonna be legal. And who is teed up better to start distributing marijuana products at a global scale than two of the biggest tobacco companies in the world? There's a very good chance that both of these stocks right now are completely undervalued. By getting in right now, you could be getting in at a phenomenal price that in 5, 6, 7 years could have tripled in price, and that's not even including the dividends that you're going to earn from these two. I think there's a lot of growth potential by two companies that are not going anywhere and have weathered many, many storms in the past. With that being said, please, like I mentioned earlier, leave me some comments in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your opinion, good, bad, and different. So I like to debate things sometimes, even if it's just playing devil's advocate. As always, like the video, subscribe, and stay safe.